And that brings us to race 3. The combined points from the first 2 races have determined the grid for this one. So race 1 winner Scott Pye will square off with Scott McLaughlin. It's a battle of the Scots on the front row. Ash Walsh and Luke Youlden on row 2. And interestingly enough, James Moffat, the top 4 on this grid have never won a round of the Dunlop Series. They're all heading into uncharted territory.
They certainly are, and I'm sure every single one of them wants to get that first round win before the other. So his final race is going to certainly be a cracker, that's for sure.
Update from further back on the grid. You'll notice from 17th on the grid, there he is, David Russell in the Dreamtime Racing Commodore. He was excluded from race 2 for failing to remain in Parc Ferme after the race, so he loses his points and he goes to the back. Andrew Jones, Dale Ward and Aaron McGill are out for this final race. 22 cars for race 3 in Barbagallo. Scott Pye to the left, Scott McLaughlin to the right, and Scott Pye lights it up. He's not at Summernuts, he's at Barbagallo, and he's been smoked by McLaughlin. Walsh is in the grass, Waters is in the grass as well. It's a hectic run of the first turn.
Well, perfect start, dream start for Scott McLaughlin with the dramas that Scott Pye had off the line. Like you said, he just smoked up those rear tyres, which he'll be disappointed with, but McLaughlin now out in front, and he'll be putting his head down, trying to get as much of a gap as he can in that Fujitsu Falcon. But look at Youlden and Mostert now there, but look at the carnage at turn 1. It looks like a bit of a bomb site in a way.
Well, there's 5 Telstra signs left. There were 7 at the start of the race, but we get running now. Zukanovic, Marcus Zukanovic, R&J Batteries Commodore from Greg Murphy Racing, gets a move on Nick Percat. You might be wondering, hang on a minute, Nick Percat won race 2. Why has he started 7th on the grid? Remember, though, he scored minimal points in race 1. You combine the points for this 3rd and final race. That's the way that we run the format, and Percat's lunging back.
He is. He's having a look up the inside on Zukanovic.
Down the inside, there's a touch, there's another touch, and around he goes. They're both off.
Jane into the back of Percat, and that's sent them both into the wall. Big damage on the Coates Hire Commodore. It's ripped the front splitter off. So Percat out of luck again. His engineer, Matt Crawford, looks on. Zukanovic able to get going, but Percat will be going nowhere.
Yeah, he's done. It's damaged. It's hit the concrete. Left front is busted. And I reckon this championship's only 7 rounds. You can't afford to have a bad one.
No, you can't, Aaron. And Nick will be really disappointed with that. Obviously, coming off the back of his first race win in race 2, he just needs to start banking points in these races, and clearly he'll be frustrated. We know he's got the speed, but that's unfortunate. Hopefully we can get a chance to have a look at the replay and see a bit more clearly what actually happened.
So McLaughlin is the leader. Percat is, well, I won't say it, he's angry, and understandably why. In fact, he's going to help with the removal here, but I think he's going to launch that thing over the fence. Here's a replay of the start. That's smoked from Scott Pye. That's Cam Waters. He got, well, 2 signs on the way through.
He got them both, so I'm not sure what Cameron was doing, but look at, yeah, Scotty Pye just looked like he dumped the clutch, plenty of wheel spin, and Youlden got a great start, forced Ash Walsh out into the grass. Cameron Waters cleaning up all the Telstra signs in the background, but there's Nick Percat. Be very disappointed with that outcome. And
there's only one place he's going. It's the Transporter, and he's not stopping to say hello to anyone at Walkinshaw Racing. He's an angry young guy. Let's analyse it. Made the dive bomb at turn 7, and now does he run Zukanovic out of road? Zukanovic's up on the exit curb. There's a touch,
and it's actually Rodney Jane that innocently gets into the back of Percat that sort of sends them both around. And unfortunately for Nick, with all the rain that we've had over the weekend, he's hit the wet grass, and that's just sent him straight into the wall.
No matter what the cause or what the case, he is out of this one. The Coates Hire Commodore's busted. We're under safety car in Perth. We're going to restart after the break. Scott McLaughlin is our leader. The Fujitsu Falcon will lead us back to the control line. It's race 3, round 2 of the Dunlop Series for V8 Supercars at Barbagallo Raceway in Perth. We're set for a restart after an accident between Nick Percat that's eliminated his car and Marcus Zukanovic, who's been able to rejoin down the tail of the field. So it's the Fujitsu Falcon that will lead us back to the restart. Scott Pye second, then Luke Youlden, then Chaz Mostert, Ash Walsh, Tim Blanchard is in there as well, then Rodney Jane. Drew Russell under fire from David Russell. We should point out, no relation.
No, they're not, but there's always plenty of Russells out in the development series. But McLaughlin, he would have been spewing with the safety car because he got a great start and pulled a bit of a gap, and that was all gone with the safety car. But have a look at the damage on the front of Rodney Jane's Sonic Falcon. So that's obviously come from when he's got in the back of Nick Percat, which we which ultimately caused a safety car.
Remember at the start of the show we mentioned, and Scott McLaughlin touched on it, we talked about an off-season suspension rule change in the Dunlop series. We'll get back to that in just a second. This is the replay of Percat and Zukanovic. There doesn't look to be much in that, and Rodney Jane just nowhere to go.
No, exactly right. So that really, until Rodney hit the back of Nick, I think everybody would have got away with that incident. So unfortunate circumstances, and Percat will probably be the most frustrated out of it because clearly he is in contention for the championship, but it's going to be hard for him to come back after scoring a DNF here today.
George Medicki on board the Sidetech Ford, and getting back to my point from earlier on, it's probably appropriate while we're seeing George. He and Rodney Jane both were excluded from practice for using dual springs in their rear suspension, and that's the point that Scott McLaughlin touched on in the preview story to the show. That's a ban this year. You're not allowed to do it because what it does is it breaks the tie between teams running, for instance, Chaz Mostert here in Ford Performance Racing's development car and the likes of their main series cars with Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom.
And I think that's a great thing that V8 Supercars has done to sort of try and stop that, I guess, development switch over from the bigger main series teams that are running development series cars, because I know the way that the main series has gone with the development of dual rate rear springs, it's definitely the way ahead, but it's quite a fine science, if you like, and certainly at DJR it's something that we've started to try this year but haven't quite got our heads around. But yeah, it's great to, I guess, have everybody closer, or more on a closer playing field in the development series.
Luke Youlden here for Matthew White's team, running in third spot with Chaz Mostert just nibbling away in that FPR Falcon. He still leads the championship, but Scott McLaughlin's been able to eat into the margin. Replay here, Michael Hector, the Carrington Equipment Falcon, goes around on the exit of turn 6, and he normally races in the V8 Touring Car Series, which is for older V8 supercars, and he says that the seat and the brakes are about the only thing similar between this car and the ex-Larkin Motorsport car he runs in that series.
Yeah, exactly right. So just a bit eager on the throttle coming out of turn 6 there, and around he went, but he would have been able to continue no dramas. It's been interesting this weekend. Aaron, Chaz Mostert hasn't quite been as dominant as we saw him on the streets of Adelaide, but he's doing the right thing. He's staying out of trouble, keeping his nose clean, and still scoring good, solid points.
We talked about Luke Youlden earlier on in the show. He'll team with Shane Van Gisbergen, and the SP Tools car had a long relationship with Ford Performance Racing, but that's come to an end, and he's gone back to SPR because he drove, remember, with Russell Ingall when the Enforcer won the championship back in 2005. So a bit of a homecoming for him. Chaz Mostert not in the endurance calculations this year, but come 2013, no doubt we'll see him at the mountain. And
Luke Youlden of this front group is certainly the most experienced, even though he hasn't been in a full-time development series drive for quite some time. So these top three now are the only ones that haven't won a round, and Scott McLaughlin out front. He's been close and he's looking good so far, but he's got to finish these last 8 laps like he's done these first 10. But on board with George Medicki in the Sonic Falcon, coming out of turn 6, the bowl as we affectionately call it, probably the hardest corner on the left rear tyre in Australia. And look, George has been a bit further down than probably what I expected him this weekend. We know Sonic always put together a great car. They finished runner-up in the championship the last 3 years, so they're definitely a capable team, and I'm sure Michael Ritter will be a little bit frustrated in their performance so far this year.
And I'm sure he's run out of stickies. He's covered the entire dashboard of that car, but he's putting the pressure on Jeff Emery, one of 4 Greg Murphy Racing Run cars this weekend. And as you mentioned earlier, this is an well, Jack Perkins drove this car last year, but earlier on in its life, it was Jamie Wincup's Vodafone car from 2008 that won the championship, which was Jamie's first, and won the great race with he and Craig Lowndes to win the third of a three-peat. So it's a very special car, but a very special performance at the moment from Scott McLaughlin. He leads the way. He's on target for a race and round win. Mostert's trying to get third from Luke Youlden. Not quite.
And into turn 7, that is actually the hardest braking application in the country, Aaron. So Barbagallo has got some really unique, I guess, features to it. We've spoken how hard it is on tyres, but also very hard on the brakes into that final corner. And I thought Chaz was going to get up the inside, but obviously Luke Youlden's got that car braking very well. Up and over this run through the S's, you can see all that tyre debris off the side of the circuit, which is essentially from the soft tyres from the main V8 Supercars Championship. So you don't want to go anywhere near that because it's like driving on ice. It certainly is. And once you get out there, you're almost a passenger. But really impressed with the job that Luke Youlden is doing in the older model ex-FPR Falcon, I guess, fending off the current FG FPR Falcon. So he's doing a great job. We touched on that he has plenty of experience. Mostert now, again, setting him up for a pass on the inside. But yeah, that Matthew White BF Falcon is certainly strong under brakes, but he's a little wide coming onto the straight, so Mostert might have an opportunity to slide up the inside, but still not a chance for him to get by Luke here.
And when you consider that this car of Luke Youlden, it was built in 2006 by FPR, so it's a 6-year-old car going up against a car that's much, much newer. Back on board with George Medicki, he's putting plenty of pressure on in this run home in the Cytec Ford. And turn one, it can really suck you in because you can really think that you can drive off the turn, but all you do is murder the left rear tyre.
It's one of those corners that's almost in between gears. You'll see some guys use second gear to get a good drive off the corner, but that hurts the tyre a bit more, and some guys use third gear and it's a little doughy off the corner, but helps you look after your rear tyres especially. So there's a number of ways you can get around Barbagallo, but George looking nice and smooth behind the wheel of his Cytec Falcon. But, I say nice and smooth, and then it just snaps into oversteer on the gear change. So he's having a look down and adjusting his anti-roll bars. And now this braking area, like I said, the heaviest in the country, but it actually goes uphill. So you come down sort of almost this big roller coaster down the hill and then brake uphill into the final corner. But George looking racy against here, one of the Russell brothers here into turn one, plenty of pressure.
And he's 13th, he's putting the pressure on Aaron Russell, the younger of the two from Newcastle. Jeff Emery following them through. Scott McLaughlin, though, is the leader. 4 laps to run at Barbagallo. Run it to the checkered flag when we come back. Back at Barbagallo, Chaz Mostert is putting the pressure on Luke Youlden. This is for third spot in race 3, round 2 of the Dunlop Series here at Barbagallo. He's tried it a few times, James Moffat. This time, though, he's got it done.
He does. He finally gets it done, and it just looks like the rear tyres on Luke Youlden's BF Falcon are starting to go off a bit. And the FPR Falcons in the main series, that's what they've been strong for this year, is rear tyre life. So no doubt that is translating over to Chaz's development series car.
So these 3 cars are all FPR-built machines, but it's only Mostert's that's still run by the team from Melbourne. Luke Youlden's car run by Matthew White's team, which also is based in Melbourne. And the car behind is his teammate, Tim Blanchard. That's another FPR-built car. So that's the great thing about the Dunlop Series. It is a place for all the cars from the main V8 Supercar Series to continue on their life, and it's been doing it for just over a decade now.
And David Russell now up the inside of Ash Walsh. So, of course, remember, we saw David Russell replace or fill in for Greg Murphy in the main series of Simmons Plains. So he's actually had a bit of seat time in between the opening round at Clipsal and here at Barbagallo. So Ash Walsh, not quite as speedy in these dry conditions as we saw him in race 1, where he put in that fantastic result for second. But certainly David Russell, plenty of experience in these cars and in the championship. And he's fighting his way forward after that exclusion from the race 2 results.
And Blanchard's putting the pressure here on his teammate Matthew White. And Blanchard's another guy we haven't heard yet too much about him in endurance driver world for Sandown and Bathurst, but the chat seems to be that he'll stay at Kelly Racing where he was last year. Which car he ends up driving is obviously a question. They've got 4 seats to fill, so it's one of the issues at this time of year as the last few endurance seats are being snaffled up. We know that Luke Youlden's certainly in one and a race-winning one with Shane Van Gisbergen, but out in front, Scott McLaughlin is pulling away in the Fujitsu Ford. A couple of laps left to go. Remember, next round of the championship will take us to Townsville for the Supervision Townsville 400. And small technical change for this series there. The control engine camshaft is mandatory from that round onwards.
And that will just bring the championship even closer in specification to the main series. And we touched on the fact that these cars aren't allowed to run the dual rate rear spring anymore, but having the control cam should only reduce costs in the future for these teams. But Scotty McLaughlin, he's done a ripper job so far. Really happy to see him out front. Coming up on some lap traffic now, final lap, and this is the last place that you want to get lap traffic. Look at Scott Pye has been able to catch him dramatically, so McLaughlin now after looking like he was going to do this last lap pretty comfortable, has got Scott Pye all over the back of him.
And Pye's got to do it now because this race, due to time constraints, will be called one lap earlier. So McLaughlin's going to have to defend the final turn. I had him penciled in for the win, but they came across Michael Hector at a bad time. He'll have to play it defensive into the final turn.
He's going to hold on.
Last turn, Fujitsu Ford. It's his third year in the Dunlop Series. And finally, Scott McLaughlin will win his first round. He makes it home only just, but that's a great breakthrough from the New Zealand-born Queensland-based driver. Pump team at Stone Brothers Racing. They've really worked with this kid since he was 16 years of age, and today's delivered.
And I'm really happy for Scotty. You know, he was fast last year, had a bit of bad luck at stages, but had the podium finishes, got his first race win at Queensland Raceway. But to see him finally win a round is great news for him and his sponsors, Fujitsu.
Scott Pye second in the race and will be second for the round. Mostert, Youlden and Blanchard next. Elliot Barber, great drive from the rookie, 10th in the final race and 8th for the round. In fact, McLaughlin, though, 7 points clear of Pye. Youlden not far off the podium. Blanchard in 5th, but it's a breakthrough for Scott McLaughlin.
Well, Scott, what an effort. Well done, and chasing that championship as well.
Yeah, thanks. It's good points for us. You know, just got to keep pushing forward and hopefully a few more. So, no, it's great fun.
And off the start, you were pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I got my start sort of a bit different a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I'm bloody happy.
And he's got every reason to be so. 5 points off the series lead now. Scott Pye jumps to 3rd, Youlden's 4th, and Ash Walsh makes a move to P5. But they're still chasing one man, Chaz Mostert.
Chaz, what an effort. Still holding on to that championship.
Yeah, only just by a whisker, but yeah, to get 3rd here in Barbagallo's, really good effort for the guys. We didn't quite get on top of it in qualifying, but yeah, to be on the podium at the end of the weekend's great.
And he'll take the fight to round 3, and that's Townsville, the Supervision Townsville 400. Bit of a break, July 6 to 8 when the development boys are back in action. But Scott McLaughlin creates some history. He's the youngest ever round winner in a 13-year history of the Dunlop Series. Pye on the podium for the first time, and plenty of celebrations for the boys at Fujitsu Racing. It will be the first of many. He's a star on the rise. Thanks for your company today. Thanks to James Moffat and the whole team. I'm Aaron Noonan. We'll see you in round 3 in Townsville.